back to Charmin's Kitchen. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my recipe for sponge cake. And sponge cake is a very moist and delicious soft cake with very few ingredients. So first of all, before I start mixing the whole cake, I'll show you. We're going to start by greasing these two pans, and I'm going to just take some butter and coat it all over the two pans that I'm using. So you just want the butter to be all over, so when you put the cake in it, it won't stick to the bottom, because I like to take them out of the pan that I bake them after and then leave them on a cake stand, so it's easier for when you finish to cut and all that. So I'm gonna butter these up, and then I will put what I like to do when I'm making cake. Not only butter the pan, I like to also put some flour in the pan, like to coat it on all sides, like the bottom and all sides. And this is very simple, guys. To grease the pan, all you have to do after you finish putting the butter, you just put in some flour, like regular flour, and then you just toss it all over on the bottom and the sides of the cake pan. So the cake, when you finish, you can throw it out or you can turn it over and it will come out right out the pan without sticking, and this is amazing. So I'll set these aside, and then I'm gonna show you guys the recipe, the ingredients for this recipe. So I'm making today 1/2 pound of sponge cake, and I need 6 eggs for that. I need 1/2 pound of sugar, and I'm using my favorite brown sugar. And I need 1/2 pound of butter, and I'm weighing it off here on my scale. So I'll just clean up this table a little, and then I'll come back and show you guys how we put this together. So we're going to be mixing up the butter and the sugar now to melt all the sugar crystals so we can get a smooth batter to put up the cake together. So now we're going to mix this together. So we want to clean up the edge of the sugar and the butter so we can get, if it's on the sides, we can't get them to mix. So we just want to bring them down to the bottom like this. And for me, in order to break up these sugar crystals quickly, I like to break 1 egg as I'm mixing the sugar and the butter together. I like to break the eggs and do a little bit of mixing, like 1 egg mix at a time, and then continue like that, because the egg helps to break up that sugar crystal faster than when you're mixing the butter and the sugar only. So I always break my egg in another bowl or something to make sure that I get out shells or any unwanted things. So in here, I'm going to be mixing in this 1 egg, and after this 1 egg, I'll show you a big difference in how quickly the egg is breaking up that sugar crystal. So this is how the melted sugar crystal and the butter is looking. I have 2 more eggs to put in, and I have them here. And after this, I'll just mix up everything. The crystals are already broken down and there is no more sugar crystals, but I just have to add the 2 more eggs because this recipe needs 6 eggs for 1/2 pound of sponge cake, and these were large eggs, so this cake is going to be very spongy. So guys, let me mix the last 2 eggs into the batter, and then we'll put everything together after this. So the sugar crystals are all broken down. There's no more, you can't hear anything, guys. I'm stirring, nothing in there. So this is all liquid butter and sugar, and that's 1/2 pound of butter, 1/2 pound of sugar, and 6 eggs. That's all mixed up together. And for this cake, I love to put nutmeg, and I have fresh nutmeg that I'm gonna be grating, my own fresh nutmeg as much as I can put in because I want this to be very flavorful. I love when the sponge cake have a nice good amount of grated nutmeg. So you can put in 1 teaspoon of nutmeg into this half pound of cake. And guys, the aroma in here is so amazing, so beautiful. You can smell that rich nutmeg fragrance. I just love fresh nutmeg. So, and then into this here, I'm going to be adding my vanilla extract. And I'm going to be adding 1.5 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So, that's 1.5 into the cake. And I will give this another little whisk. And then, or I'll just mix this up with my spatula. Just mix this in gently. And on the side here, I have my 1/2 pound of flour on my scale. So into the flour, before I dump it into the mixture, the batter, I will be adding my baking powder. And for the baking powder, I'm putting in 1 tablespoon of baking powder into the 1/2 pound of cake and a half, because baking powder helps the cake to be nice and fluffy and spongy and rise up to the top of the baking pan. So we want to make that nice nice bake. Let the baking powder help the flour to rise in the cake. So I'll put this into the batter, and that's simple as it is, guys. If you don't have a mixer, a cake mixer, you can always do this by, you can mix your eggs separate in with an egg whisk, and you can stir your butter and your sugar into a bowl by hand. So I'm gonna just mix this up a little. So everything can get mixed in. This, guys, it's all nice and mixed in with the flour, the baking powder, everything, all the ingredients. Very, very simple ingredients. So what I'm gonna do now, I'll pour them into the baking pan, the ones that I already butter and grease. And for this one here, I don't want to put too much for it to run over, because this is a shallow pan. But they always say you never bake sponge cake into a square pan. But so that's why I'm baking it into this round pan. And this one here, I have to bake one into a square pan, guys, because for cutting purposes, I prefer better to bake a sponge cake in a square pan, because you can cut it so nicely when it's in a square pan. You can also cut nicely when it's in a round pan, but to me, I like to have those nice little square size. So I'm just gonna put the rest of the batter into this one, and see, 1/2 pound give me 2 pans of cake. And then I just wanna spread it out nicely. And then once I spread it out here, right away my oven is ready. So I'm gonna put this into the oven, and I will leave it for about 30 minutes because they're not big thick cakes. And then when we take it out, I will show you guys how these look. So I'm gonna put the round one on the round cake stand, and these are smelling so yum. Let's see, this is very, very hot. Okay. So part of it stopped because I probably didn't get to tang the bottom properly, but we'll flip that and then you can't even see. But look how spongy that is. And then the next one, we're gonna flip on the square cake stand, and then we'll try not to let it, hopefully this one doesn't break. Oops, this one came out perfectly good. But I like to flip them because I don't like to turn the cake bottoms up. So I'll flip this nicely. And they're so spongy, guys. So spongy, they're so, so hot. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna leave them to get a little bit cold because they're super, super hot. And then I will cut them and show you guys how it looks in the inside. So guys, these are the 2 beautiful cakes that I just baked, the sponge cake, and I only leave them in the oven for 25 minutes in a 350-degree oven, and so it takes no time at all. This cake bakes so quickly with very, very simple ingredients. So I'm gonna cut them because this is the sponge cake and it's so moist and so soft. You can see how my knife is going right through it. And I'm gonna cut a nice slice of this one. And see guys, look at that. Beautiful, beautiful sponge cake. And then I wanna cut a piece of the square one. And this is so nice and moist as well. So I'm gonna cut on the end part, so you guys can see how soft and how fluffy and how moist this cake is. See here? The thickness and the moist for this cake is just amazing. So I'm gonna turn this cake around, and then you can see in here how, look at that. See how it's coming up back? And then look at this one here. See how nice this is? So very simple, very easy recipe. And guys, I'm gonna dig into this cake because I'm very excited. So I made myself a cup of tea, and I'm gonna have this cake along with my tea tonight. And I always love to have a nice piece. Look at this guys. Look, when you put the thing here, how fluffy that is. See? So I'm gonna dig in right into the sponge because it's a sponge cake. You can just dig in right into it. It's so spongy. And then I'm just gonna dig in. Cheers, guys. I'll try and let you guys know. So spongy, guys. So moist in the inside. The brownness on the outside is from the brown sugar. And the brown sugar give it a nice crust on the outside. So it's a little bit crunchy on the outside and so moist and spongy in the inside. And guys, this sponge cake with a cup of tea is so light, so light. I think I'm holding a piece of paper. And you just want to enjoy this with a nice cup of tea. So this bite here now, guys, this is for you guys. So cheers. So amazing, so good, guys. This is an easy recipe if you have friends coming over, if you want to share tea and a nice piece of cake with your family. This recipe, it goes quickly like that. In less than an hour, you can have sponge cake with the mixing process, the baking process, and everything. So I hope you guys like this recipe. I'm going to be enjoying the rest of mine. And if you haven't subscribed to my video, please do so. Please press the like button, share. Let me know if you have any comments, any recipe you would like to see me make. Please leave me a comment, let me know. Until then, bye for now.